There's nothing like League. And this is the Betfred Super League. No! Got me here. It took a big chunk out of me. Bleeding. It's bleeding. Oh no, it's bleeding. The thing just ripped my ear off. What do you think?
Hello everyone and welcome along to another edition of Eddie and Stevo, the podcast. 30 minutes or so of the best rugby league chat around, here with the support and blessing as always of our friends at Betfred. Now sadly, Stevo has gone AWOL again this week. Hopefully my Scarlet Pimpernel will be back in a week's time. So this week I've journeyed across to the Costa del Oldham to meet up with Sky Sports' one and only Barrie McDermott to talk about all things so far and look ahead to the Easter programme coming up this weekend. Barrie, first of all, thank you so much for your time. Really do appreciate it. 7 rounds in. What are you making of the season so far?
I'm loving it, Ed. It's been really exciting. We've had a lot of packed, full stadiums, a lot of really good atmospheres. I was lucky to be at Lee against Wigan last week. My word, you have to give it to the Lee Leopards. Did I say Centurions then? I think I did. You have to give it to the Lee Leopards and Derek. The atmosphere, the feel-good factor was all there before the game. And then 5 or 10 minutes before the beginning of the game, but with a kick-off, I was watching Brian and the rest of the lads who were doing the pitch presentation from the corner, that bottom corner of the pitch. I couldn't hear myself speak. It was that loud, there was that much noise, and I felt like I was part of something. I really enjoyed it. So, all in all, first 7 rounds, what we've seen is pretty much what we expected. I thought Warrington would do well. I didn't think they'd go 7 from 7. I'm beginning to turn that corner where I'm thinking it's harder to make a case against them not winning the League Leaders' Shield than going on and doing what they should do by rights with the squad that they've got. I did expect Wakefield to struggle. I didn't expect Lee to be as bad as every other promoted team. But the shocking one for me is Hull FC and the ditch that they're in. They're really struggling. They were nowhere to be seen in the first half. You could argue that they weren't too bad in the second, but the damage was done in the first half against Warrington. So yeah, all good. Really, really positive. Everything's good. Looking forward to what's always my favourite part of the year.
Yeah, the Easter programme, it's condensed now. It's just one round over 3 or 4 days, whereas in the good old days, we used to do Thursday, Friday, sometimes Saturday, and then they had a day off, and then they came back Monday, Tuesday for another round. 2 rounds over Easter. The coaches, certainly the Australian coaches, they didn't really realise what was going on over here when they arrived, but that is now all gone. Do you miss the involvement of 2 rounds over the Easter weekend, or does it not really matter?
It doesn't bother me. I take a pretty pragmatic look at it, and I think that for the good of the following 2 or 3 games, they've made that decision. I'm sat at home, I'm still getting my viewing pleasure. I've got all 6 games over the Easter weekend. We've got 1 on Thursday, 2 on Friday, 2 on Saturday, and then Leeds finish off on Sunday, although Leeds women play York women as well.
And that's 7 games live.
Yeah.
And you're going to watch them all on your telly. I can't believe that. You're going to be at least 5 or 6 of those.
I'm going to be there on Friday, there on Saturday, and I'll be as a specky on Sunday because Willie Porchin's leaving the country and there's a table of his ex-teammates. We're going to have a few shandies and see him on his way. But yeah, it is a debate that we've had for a long time. Coaches were never happy with it. As a player, listen, I used to love it because we didn't have to train that much. I loved the challenge of getting patched up and back out on the Monday. As a Leeds player, we always played Thursday. We always got that Monday, Thursday gig against Bradford predominantly. And then we'd play a team on Monday. Most of the time it was a Cass or a Wakey or something like that. But I thought it was in my post career, I thought it was a real good indicator on the runners and the rider once we got those 2 or 3 games out of the way. So Easter period, the following week, probably looking at half the fixtures under everybody's belt. Then you look at the strength of the squads, because the 1 to 17s, they've been churned up, and a couple of players and injuries and rotation and what have you. You're looking at the strength of the squads, the quality of the sides, the mentality of the sides. And I thought it was always a good look at what should happen towards that end of the year. So again, yeah, Warrington looked good. You must be happy, Eddie.
Well, everyone says this to me. Oh, you must be happy. But that's because I live in the town, of course. Barrie,
What do you think of Oldham, by the way? I don't think you've been to Oldham for a long time, have
well,
you?
the sun is shining and it is glorious today. And, of course, Oldham, Mike Ford has come back. The new regime has moved in. They're going back to Boundary Park. This is great news for Oldham, isn't it?
Absolutely. I think there's a lot of feel-good factor around Mike Ford and the consortium that he's put together. There's it's no secret the club was stagnant. The previous hierarchy, let's put it that way, hadn't managed to take it forward for a while, and I'm glad to see it re-energised now. And Mike's got a lot of rugby knowledge. He's got a lot of contacts in the town, both as a rugby man and as a businessman. So
is there a space there for you, do you think, one of these days?
He actually rung me up a couple of days before. I was at Huddersfield, got a call, and I thought for a second he was going to ask me to get my boots back out.
Or coach?
Yeah, but yeah, he sort of, we had a discussion on that. Do you know, Eddie, there was a time where coaching was a real passion of mine, and I enjoyed working with players and being in the environment, changing rooms and just developing players and getting them to improve. And I haven't completely shut that part of my brain off. I still do it on the analysis side of our matches. But I'm a busy man. I will help Mike Ford as much as I can, but it won't be getting my boots and tracksuit back on.
Well, and also it's a precarious business, for goodness sake. I mean, I know you don't follow football, but look at the Premier League. I think I heard the other day 12 managers have bitten the dust this year alone, and 2 in quick succession over last weekend. And the same has to be said for rugby league coaches. I just wonder, poor old Mark Applegarth, 0 from 7, 4 times they've not scored a point. But if Wakefield do anything drastic with him, where on earth do they go? And where does anybody go who gets rid of a coach?
I don't think it's down to Mark Applegarth completely that they are where they are. The squad has always been a small one. It's smaller now than it's ever been. They got a couple of loan players in. One of their senior brothers, and Will Dagger came during the week. It didn't make much of a difference. I've just watched Wakefield against Saints this morning. It's a difficult one for Mark Applegarth because I'm not sure what he can do. You could put somebody like Wayne Bennett in there. I'm not sure what he'd do. The spiral's going at a fair rate of knots now, and I think it's 40-odd points they've scored over the course of the season. It's nowhere near good enough.
No, minus 175, I think, the points difference.
Yeah,
which is horrendous.
You can defend your way to a victory without a shadow of a doubt, but now if you're not scoring enough points, you've got to, it's a given that you've got to have some kind of attack on the line. And I watched that game, as I said, this morning as we record. It's early on in the week. That's my preparation.
I know you watch every game, don't you?
I always have done, Ed. It's a part of my week that just prepares me for what's going. Every eventuality that happens in a game, I've got a reference because I've watched the games. But having
don't
watched,
you fall asleep on a few of them? No?
Now and then, I'm a little lazy boy here. Yeah,
because I do. I watch things off tape, as they used to be in the good old days, or off the box now.
Yeah.
And I know the score, I know the result, and I'm fine. About 45 minutes in, I've gone.
Don't tell the missus, because she's always... No, have you had a little sleep today? No. Well,
it's a vital part of your research.
It is, rest. No, I've got... funny, they were talking about Cade Cuss this week and his bulging discs. I've got bulging discs in my neck, so I get pain down the back of my arm. I get excruciating pain in my shoulder blade. I know how debilitating it will be for Cade Cuss. So I have a little horseshoe water bottle, and it's absolutely perfect on this settee. Hot water bottle on the back of my neck. I have been known to have a little blinky, little 15 minutes.
I don't blame you. You know, you talk about that. You talk about Kate Cuss, what he's going through, what all the players, all the ex-players go through. And I know there's you know, a lot of talk about court cases coming up and injuries and head injuries and all. I do have to ask myself at times, seeing you hobbling around from time to time, it must have been a real passion. It must have been, you know, something you were 100% intent to do, looking back with the little water bottle around the neck and, you know, feeling all this pain. Do you regret it?
Not 1 second. And I take issue with the lads that are putting those cases together, because I have to be careful what I say here, because there will be genuine cases within those. And I've met recently an ex-coach of mine who unfortunately has got dementia. He's only in his early 60s, and he played the game very tough. So there are a lot of ramifications, and you know, and I think that's the game that we play. It is a brutal game. It can be a violent game. It was a violent game. And
it used to be Barrie McDermott. It used to be. McDermott's got to go.
Yes. Where have I heard that before? Yeah.
About 12 times when you played Bradford.
Well, it is a rugged game, and I loved every second of it. And my body's smashed to bits. There isn't anybody putting cases forward for new knees, new shoulders, bulging discs, all those other things. The mind seems to supersede everything, which it probably is right. I don't agree with what they're doing as a whole, because I think we're on that sort of tipping.
Yes.
You know, we're at that tipping point constantly. It's a sport, and this is an analogy. It lives on selling meat packs. It's, you know, buying raffle tickets. We're not a sport that has a massive amount of money in the bank. We're not a sport, because if you were to say to me what would you do and how would you solve a lot of these issues, it wouldn't be tinkering with the game. It would be the aftercare. It would be putting, you know, I know that your sport, the round ball sport, they get private medical looking after for the rest of their life.
The wind isn't allowed to blow on professional footballers. No. You know, and I watched this week Harry Kane going down against Everton when he got a flick in the face. And I always say when I'm watching it, get yourself on a rugby league field and see how you feel after 80 minutes of rugby league.
And is it right, Eddie, once they finish the career, that the sport, they have to reach a certain criteria, they get looked after privately as well?
I think they probably do, but Barry, they're all multimillionaires anyway when they finish these days. They weren't in the good old days in the 60s and 70s when I used to watch it. But nowadays, their futures are assured. They don't need to worry about anything. You know, they can have their own private medical insurance till the day they die now. I'm sure they can, such is the money.
Well, and we're on the NHS. That's the reality.
That's the difference, isn't it? Yeah. In rugby league, you know, I'm trying to choose my words carefully here, but in rugby league, there isn't the money that the players earn in a year, in some instances, what these footballers earn in 6, 5, 4, 3 days.
Yeah.
And it's you can't marry the two together. You can't marry the two together for all that you people have go through and have been through, you know.
But I will say this, the caveat is, but I knew what I was doing.
Yes.
And I accepted the risk, and I accepted the consequence of what we were doing, and I'm unhappy with the ramifications of what this court case will do, because it shuts the door on everybody else. You can't throw...
Are they following rugby unions?
Of course they are. Yeah. Of course they are. But in and amongst that, there will be some cases that are tragic, and they do need our support. And that's what I'm talking about, putting something around the players that do need that help and support, that will allow them to live the right way for the rest of whatever they've got left.
And I know that you are heavily involved with motor neurons disease and Rob. And a lot of people come up to me and say, how is he? You know him better than anybody I know.
Yeah.
How is Rob Burrow, one of the Trojans of this sport for many years? I'll never forget that try he scored at Old Trafford against St Helens. And every time I think about it and watch it, I get a tear in my eye.
Yeah. Well, he's poorly. You know, that goes without saying. He's plateaued, if I can put it that way. He seems to be... He's always been full of spirit, and I text him on a regular basis, Mainly abuse. It's how you go in, big nose, and he'll say, "Not too bad, Gonzo. How are you?" And,
people say when you see him, his eyes smile and his eyes light up.
He's heavily medicated now, and I think that sometimes I'll tell you a little story, and it's very personal to me, but I'm sure he won't mind me sharing. So, not the last time, because I took Brian Carney with me last time. The previous time, which was about 7 weeks ago, he was having a bit of trouble. With his medications, having a bit of trouble with his food, not eating right, and he was poorly. And I went there and I sat with Matt Diskin, and me and Disco, as we normally do, babble away, talk to Jeff and Irene. Irene's always great. She always brings the coffees over, and occasionally, very occasionally, depends who I bring with me, she gets the biscuits out. Not me on
Not
my
for
own.
you. No, I can't. No, hang on. Looking at you, I can't believe that. But go on, sorry.
So we were sat there, and Jeff was quiet, and I just thought there's a bit of underlining stress here and worry. And I came home, text Lindsay, "How's Rob? How's Jeff? Yeah, there's a lot going on. Rob's not eating properly. Staying, make sure you let me know if anything changes, Lindsay. And she does. She texts me all the time. Spoke to her next time. Yeah, he's fine. He's picked up. Everything's okay. Took Brian with me. He could not stop laughing because, as we know, he never shuts up, Brian.
No.
And
you just look at him, you laugh.
Yeah. And when Brian starts taking the mickey out of me,
yeah,
and the stories that Rob hasn't heard before, he's breathless because he can't breathe properly because he's laughing that much. And then when I come away from him, when he's like that, I am energised and inspired and all those great things. But now and then you go and it knocks the stuffing out. I don't mind telling you, I was upset all the way home. And as you'd imagine, you don't like seeing any of your mates suffering. But as long as he needs us, and when I say us, there's a full network of people around him, not just his teammates, there's his family and his friends, they're all around him constantly, and that's what he needs. And he has good days and bad days. But as an overview, I think there's nobody that feels sorry for themselves in that family. They were on TV this week because Coronation Street are going to do a storyline around a character with MND. So that then just fizzes everything up. It
energises them, doesn't it? It lifts them.
Yeah,
it lifts them.
And then I see him on the set at Coronation Street, and I said, "You get where Waterloo, you big nose," and he loves it. So, for all the rugby league family that care about him and want to know, he's doing okay, but he always appreciates the love, and he appreciates all the social media contact that he has, because on his eye glaze that he has, his little iPad that he communicates, I know he does try as hard as he can to reply to everybody that messages him.
Fantastic. He was a wonderful player. He's a fantastic man. He has brought such awareness of MND, as you all have, Kevin Sinfield particularly. Yeah. There's such awareness of this disease now. Our golf club captain at Warrington Golf Club this year has got MND as his charity for the year. So hopefully, we'll be raising a few bob for them and for him. But the bloke was an inspiration as a player, and I take my hat off to all of you who go. And they are a lovely family.
They're a lovely family, Eddie. And what you do in this situation, and I do know what you're saying, I'm cutting you off because it bubbles my throat a little bit, but he needs us, and as long as he needs us and as long as he appreciates it, we'll go and we'll do our bit.
It's the Rivals Round this weekend. They called it the Rivals Round. You did a great promo last week for the Rivals Round, and all the old footage was there, the swinging punches and the McDermott and Fielden clashes that went on.
Go on, ask me the question.
Do you get on with him?
No.
Did you ever get on with him?
No.
Do you love him?
No.
What's the relationship like then?
It's a strange relationship.
I bet it is.
We have a communication. Everyone always asks me, do you regret stuff? And I don't regret stuff, no, because I think I was part of a duel with another participant who probably weren't as good as I was at the set of skills, but
he was better looking.
He's well. That's not what you say in private, Eddie.
He never got as many hard
I'm
knocks
just
as
looking
you.
at you here now.
Yes.
The reason you were a little bit late to my house is you went to the hairdresser and it's a little bit darker than it normally is.
Now,
Tell him he needs to take it down a shade or two.
You know
It's
very
purple.
well. I've been for a tattoo. You know very well that is libelous and slanderous, Mr.
Well,
McDermott.
sue me. Get in the queue. Get behind Stuart. He's suing me as
but
well.
he is.
No, but going back to Stuart, we acknowledge we had a good time. He has a different point of reference than I do. I did it to anybody and everybody every single week. It wasn't just, it wasn't just.
How many times were you at the disciplinary?
19.
Were you?
Yeah, you're taking me after dinner speech off me. Don't be giving me secrets away.
19.
19 times.
18, 14 mistaken identities.
You're taking the lines off me.
I've heard you, that's why.
19 times, 40 matches and £10,000 in fines. I know.
You
could have had another extension on this house.
You could have built on, couldn't you?
No.
10 grand.
Yeah, but it all
40 games.
Yeah.
That's a season and a half.
It is, yeah.
You pinched your money.
I know. Prockers always says it. Our good mate Prockers says, if you didn't get sent off as much, you didn't get injured, you'd have got 500 games easy.
But you're still a legend at Leeds. You're on the wall.
I'm happy. I'm very privileged.
And you should be. I mean, you should be happy. You should be proud.
Yeah, I am proud. And we were there last night. We had a night of 10s last night. Danica Prim, Jamie Peacock, and the Bionic Barrel, Stevie Pitchford, who was great value. I love listening to a lot of those older players because I think they had the best times because, I mean, we had great times. There were no phones. There were no, in-depth sort of scrutiny of what we got up to over weekends.
Hang on, we in-depthly scrutinised you week after week.
Not what we got up to after the
No,
match.
that's true.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah,
There was no mobile phones and pictures.
No,
Thank God.
We were allowed to have fun. We were allowed to celebrate. We were allowed to enjoy our victories. I'm not sure it's the same now. I think they still have that. I mean, the rugby lads from up north, they still have that desire to do it. They just have to be a little bit careful, a little bit choosy, and maybe a little bit secretive as well. Which that's the path that they're on, and they have to choose wisely when they go out and who they go out with. However, Stevie Pitchford and his era will tell you everything, and John Holmes and Sid Hines, just great characters. Listening to those lads talk about their stories is always great. So no, going back to Leeds is a wonderful club. I'm not sure where they're going on the pitch. I think what we saw last week was, the team that won in the dry, with a dry ball and beautiful conditions against Catalan the previous week, trying to play the same way in the wet and the wind up at Hull KR and just failed.
Well, you say that, but when you look back on those grand final after grand final after grand final that Leeds, played in, it was October.
Yeah.
It was raining.
Yeah.
And we knew Leeds were going to kick the opposition to death, kick and chase, run, hold on. And they were a wet weather team under Brian Mack. They were. And they had wonderful success. This is obviously a different coach.
Yeah,
this is a different
philosophy.
era,
Yeah.
obviously.
Different philosophy. 2 words, Kevin Sinfield, who only lives about a mile that way.
Right.
He's up the hill. The richer you are, the further up the hill,
Is that right?
you are.
Is that right?
Yeah, I'm near bottom me, where I'll...
He must be thousands of feet above. He must be.
Hundreds of thousands, actually. But Kev Sinfield's rugby league IQ was second to none. And it's interesting you mentioned Brian Mack, who's over with Newcastle Knights now. I don't think anybody had as big of an influence on the team in that period than Kevin Sinfield, whether it was Tony Smith coaching the side, whether it was Brian McLennan coaching the side, or whether it was Brian McDermott coaching the side. It was his ability to guide and steer and adapt to those conditions, whether it was dry or wet.
Kev was the general.
Absolutely, yeah. And there were a lot of, very good supporting acts. Peacock in his time, his stoic nature and his give me that ball and I'll run over the top of him. And then you had Danny Maggs and you had Rob Burrow, Brent Webb. You could chuck his contribution over a period of time, but they had players who understood. Danny Badeiros was there for a couple of the grand finals. Matt Diskin. Those spine players were all high class, top quality. I can only think of the Catalan game in 7 games where the spine of Leeds have all played well all at the same time. I thought Jared had a good game last week. I love to heap praise on Jared, but I hate to heap praise on his dad. He's had absolutely nothing to do with it.
No, but Jared is fantastic at the minute, and so much so they've allowed Cruz Leeming to leave the club for whatever reason, and they've given Jared. I know he doesn't wear the 9, but they've given Jared the 9 job.
Well, the way I would describe it to the non-rugby expert is not, God, I'm not an expert, but the way I understand it is Cruz Leeming is a decision maker at 9, and he'll decide who needs the ball, who's the best person to have it. Jared will just give it to the loudest voice. So that for this team is what Rowan Smith wants. He wants his halfbacks to have carte blanche on what's going on.
I was going to say he wants halfback runners, not hooker runners.
Correct,
doesn't he? Yeah.
I think if I'm honest, if I put my blue and amber on for a while, I think I'm disappointed with how Cruz Leeming has left the club, because I think he deserved better than that. But these things are always messy. Whenever you go and it's not on your own terms, there's always a fallout. So
of course there is.
I think he's kept his powder dry. He's kept, he's said more by not saying stuff than saying stuff.
He's had a little pop, hasn't he?
He has, but it was more around what he didn't say and who he didn't thank, which I think is probably his way of getting it out there without spoiling his reputation. He's a good kid, he's Cruz, and I wish him well over at Gold Coast. But for what Leeds need to have, it's a hooker that just distributes, delivers. He's hard as nails in the middle, leads the line up. He's everything his dad talks about, isn't he? Up quick, trying to damage people. But when it comes to giving the ball to the right person, he's doing remarkably well, and we're all proud of him, because both, as you know, sides are intermingled.
Yes,
and
the O'Connors and the McDermott, the brothers.
Yeah,
you're brothers, aren't you?
Well, we are a clan. We have a clan WhatsApp group. I'm head of the clan, and I always say,
so you should be.
As head of the clan, I'd like to congratulate Jared, and we're all proud of him. So irrespective of our family connection,
he's amongst the top 10, 15 players in the comp at the moment.
Quite right too.
On merit.
Quite right too.
And he's got a great opportunity again this weekend to shine, because, as I say, we've got all 6 games live on Sky, plus the women's game ahead of the Leeds match at the end of the weekend. We will know a lot, won't we, about certain teams come the end of this weekend. Yeah. I mean, everyone's saying the next 3 for Warrington, for instance, will tell us exactly where they are. They've got Catalan, Wigan and Saints in quick succession. Now, if they are then 10 from 10, can we say the words?
I've said it.
You think it's their year?
I said it, and again, I'm choosing my words carefully. I said at the beginning of the year it would be a very exciting year. But what I've started to form an opinion on is what they look like when they're playing well. So cast your mind back to a great side and the Bradford side of the early noughties. I know I'm going back some years now, but the formula that they had was a big pack. It had a little bit of mobility and a little bit of offload, but predominantly it was power. It was about size. They had craft, a couple of cheeky halfbacks, and they had some real pace on the edges and strike, and that's what Warrington have got. And the more I've watched them this year, the more they remind me of that really dominant period when Bradford had the awesome foursome. They demolished everybody in their path, really. So it's not impossible to say that they'll go 10 out of 10, but 2 out of 3 wins in that period there. If we're not sitting up and taking notice now, we will be at the end of that.
Well, massive match on Thursday night, Wakefield, Castleford. I mean, those 2 clubs struggling desperately. Then Good Friday wouldn't be Good Friday without the Hull derby and the Wigan Saints match. I'm actually going to Wigan Saints.
Yes, I
on
believe so.
Friday.
They're rolling the red carpet out.
Well, it's 4 years to Good Friday since I...
Is that how long it is?
4 years since I disappeared, yeah. I'm only doing this so as people know I'm not dead.
Well, I have a lovely photograph of you, me and the big head on the gantry. I'll send it to you after. It's one of my favourite photos because we're all laughing.
Yeah.
Me and Tez are laughing because we've got rid of you finally. And you're laughing because you're rubbing your hands thinking, right, I'm finally done with all this nonsense. But yeah, it's one of my favourite. Yeah. I'll send it to you.
Yeah, please do. Yeah, please
it's a cracker. So
please
4 years ago, wow.
4 years.
What have you been doing for 4 years?
Not much. Ticking a few boxes.
Golf, I expect.
Bit of golf. ticking a couple of bucket list experiences. Orient Express recently, and the Rio Carnival.
Yeah.
I thought you looked really well, by the way. Yeah, I thought it was a wonderful outfit you were in.
It's upstairs here.
Yeah,
I'll get it for
you
you.
get it from me. I know, I thought you. So we're doing all that sort of stuff, and just generally having fun and doing a bit of this and talking
Quite
to
right,
to great people about the great game. Question for you about Good Friday: which is the best? You never played in either of them. Is it the whole derby because it's a big city proper derby, or is it Wigan Saints? I've got my own opinion, obviously, and it's not Hull. Now it depends. It depends now which game you're doing on.
I'm doing both. I'm doing the studio for both.
Oh right, okay. So you're at Wigan.
So I've probably done as many of one
Each.
as I have as of the other, but it depends what season it is. I think in terms of prominence, Wigan Saints always gets the prominence, doesn't it? Because it's been the fixture, the venue of so many iconic games, and you won't be surprised to know that mine is the fighting one, the Farrell and Sculthorpe, where they're punching
and we saw
lumps
it. We
out
saw
of
it
each
last
other.
week on your wonderful promo for the rivals round. The bad old days, but the good old days for a lot of people.
Passion. That's what I love to see. Passion looks very different now, and whenever I see it, I recognise it. But passion back then, and everything is of its time. Passion back then is Sculthorpe and Farrell, who were the two best players you could argue in the world at that time, going toe to toe on Good Friday. But what I always look at is, and it's too much of a cliche to say that, you know, form goes out the window, but it usually is the underdog that wins. Let me put it like that. I wouldn't be surprised if in a Wigan Saints game you said that Wigan are the underdogs. I wouldn't be surprised if Wigan go on, especially at home in a full stadium, to win that one. And if you said that Hull FC are the underdogs against Hull KR, I wouldn't put it past Hull FC delivering their best game of the season again at home. Big crowd against the near rivals. So I can't wait. The answer to your question is, I think it depends what's going on around it.
Indeed. And you've hit the nail on the head. There is going to be 2 full houses.
Yeah.
The crowd for the home side will lift the home team. There's no doubt about that. But don't forget, never write off
the Saints. Yeah.
Having said all that, there's going to be 40,000 plus at those 2 matches.
Yeah.
The record attendance for Easter is 79,000 and a bit.
Yeah.
There's a great chance this weekend that figure is going to be eclipsed. With all that's going on in Australia, the massive crowds and the huge TV revenues and the huge TV audiences, what a boost that would be.
What a boost, yeah.
For the Betfred Super League.
It's been... I'm lucky I've been to full houses nearly every time I've got in my car to go to a game. There was a couple of Thursday nights there where it was sparse early on when the weather wasn't great, but it's predominantly been packed atmosphere. Don't let the Aussies kid you. They might have more bums on seats, Eddie, but they do not create the atmosphere that the British crowds create.
No,
you listen to any of them when they come over. That's the first thing they talk about. It's not celebrating tries level of noise. It's the consistent level of noise, the banter, the songs, the drum, the cowbell, dare I say it. You know, it's all that stuff. So don't let them kid you. They've got more eyes on TV screens. They've got more bums on seats. We aspire to replicate that, but our unique selling point is the passion that's on those terraces.
And I'm going to say something now that probably a lot of people will poo-poo. I think, from an entertainment point of view, ours is the better game, without a doubt. That's probably because of a lot of the mistakes. But I think what we watch week after week, I'm not talking about the commentary in the studio presentation here, by the way. No, that's unfair. What I watch every week, I love every minute of it. I really do. It's great. It's great fun. And it's wonderful to watch and see you all and listen to you all and shout at you all. It's fabulous.
Let me put it like this, Eddie. I've been in this game a long time, and I know, having met and spent time with a lot of Australian players, they love the defensive part of the game. They see it as a real aspect of rugby league, that gladiatorial part of rugby league that they enjoy and they thrive in. Well, we only defend until it's our turn to play with the ball. We love to attack. We love to offload. We love to pass, score spectacular tries.
Love to entertain.
We love to entertain.
Correct.
And we enjoy that part of the game. So therefore, crowds enjoy to watch that part of a game. How many times have you and I been on a gantry and it's 8-6?
No.
And there's an hour gone, and we're I'm talking about me and Tez are convincing you that there's some beauty in what's going on here. It's not great to watch, but there's some beauty and there's a real battle within the battle. In Australia, that would be an all-time iconic great. We're just different games with different emphases. We need to take a little bit off each other. You know, sometimes it's often said in Australia when a player comes over to Super League, well, the game over there will suit him.
Yeah.
Because of the way that...
Yeah.
Now, you look at some of the British players that have gone over, and I'm thinking specifically of people like Hodgson, Dom Young, who've gone over there with little to no reputation. They're now players of serious note over in Australia because the game suits their styles and it suits their skill set. So yeah, it's just different.
Barry, look, time's up. I'm afraid. I'm looking at the clock, and we've been yabbering. I've got page after page after stuff here that I was going to talk to you about.
Well, I'll come again, Ed.
Well,
you know I will.
Well, I would love to talk to you again, and it's been great having you here. And enjoy your Easter, your 7 games that you're going to be doing and watching. We'll all be with you, and have a fantastic time. And thank you first and foremost for your time here today. Thank you,
Ed.
Been
Pass
brilliant.
my best on to the beast, and I'll see you both soon. If not, on Good Friday.
I'll see you on Good Friday at the best club derby in the Super League.
Take it easy on the Prosecco.
I'll have to. I'm driving. Hopefully, fingers crossed, I won't be journeying back to Oldham because Stevo will be back on board with us. And from both of us, it's goodbye.